Now, I know most of you guys haven't been around long enough to know this, but I used to mess around a lot with cheap Chinese earphones and Chinese audio products. Things like the ZS series of earphones. I did like 3 videos in the past about it, and well, the list goes on if you go back to my channel like a couple of years. Since then, I haven't actually done too much audio products just because, well, my ears aren't that good and I'm not that, capable of judging earphones. I also don't have enough time to do A/B testing all the time, but I am still interested in audio and I'm still kind of an audiophile. So this is the GK GST. And when GK, who is somewhat affiliated and related to KZ it seems, came to me and said, would you like to check out these 18 Singapore dollar earphones? I said yes in an instant. I wanted them to send it my way, which they did by the way, to review, and I wanted to check it out and figure out, well, how has Chi-Fi changed? Has it gotten much better? Has it gotten more refined? And is this earphone actually worth its 18 Singapore dollar price tag, which is admittedly extremely low. As always, we started with the design, and the design of these earphones, well, they're really nice. It's got a clear housing, it's got a GK logo on it. I think it looks really classy, it looks really premium, it looks way more expensive than it actually is. The clear housing copper wire is gorgeous, and everything is just, well, it looks much more premium than you think a 18 Singapore dollar earphone will be. Cable, however, is a little bit short, so if you plan to plug this into the back of your computer is mounted on the floor, well, you're going to need a cable extension of some sort or replace the cable with a longer cable, which you can do because, yes, the cable is placeable, it's removable and detachable. I think this is the same 2-prong system that the KZ earphones have, so if you want to replace the earphones, well, you have many options in terms of like the cable. The ear tips it comes with are very comfortable, and generally I did find these earphones quite comfortable to live with. If you're the kind of person to sleep with your earphones in, it is a bit big, it is a bit bulky, so you kind of will feel it pressing against your skin. So I don't recommend you go to sleep with this, or at least you don't lie on your side with this because it's not very comfortable to do so. However, in normal day-to-day use, perfectly comfortable, and it comes with a variety of different size rubber tips, so you can get it just right and it doesn't drop out from your head when you're shaking your head a lot. So it's actually decent for working out, though I don't know why you'd be wearing wired earphones to work out. All that's good, all that's said and done, well, we're not buying earphones for the design or the build quality exactly, are we? These aren't Beats. We're buying earphones because of how they sound. So how do the GK GST sound, especially for 18 Singapore dollars? Let's keep that price tag in mind before we inflate our expectations too much because it looks premium. Now, the earphones are hybrid armature earphones, I think that's what they call it. They basically got a hybrid driver system. They got a balanced armature driver in there and they got a dynamic driver in there. The dynamic driver handles all the bass and all the boomy stuff, and the balanced armature driver manages the mids and the treble because balanced armature drivers are better at that. This kind of hybrid driver system has been around for a while now, but to have it on an 18 Singapore dollar earphone, well, it's pretty impressive. But that doesn't matter if it doesn't sound good at the end of the day, so how does it sound? Let's start off with the bass, and me and the person who helped me test and plan out this video, Alex, who's a musician, way more of an audiophile than me and has way more experience testing earphones than me, both agree that these earphones, super bassy, super bassy. Now, the general tuning and sound signature of these earphones are V-shaped, but I think the emphasis of the V is probably on the bass side of things because it's loud, strong, and it's definitely very present. Now, the attack of the bass is a bit sluggish, so it does not feel as punchy as some other headphones or earphones that are very bassy. I really do like the amount of bass that this has because I am very used to warm sounding bassy headphones and bassy earphones, but for someone who likes listening to classical music more and more jazz and instrumentals, which is the other guy who helped me plan this video, he felt that the bass was a bit much. So this is definitely subjective, but for me who only listens to R&B and hip-hop like 85-90% of the time, I really like the drums standing out with the bass on these, so I do like the bass on this. Depends on who you are, obviously. Thankfully though, the bass isn't so boomy and so muddy that it spills over into the mids and causes everything to sound boomy and messy and disgusting like early generation Beats headphones. It is still definitely very loud, which might be a problem for some people who don't like bass. Who are you if you don't like bass? You're just weird. Moving on to the mids, it's admittedly the weakest part of all of its sound signature, all of its sound tuning. It's not terrible, but definitely feels a little bit weird and inaccurately tuned. Like it has something a little bit off with the timbre of how instruments sound from these earphones. It's not the most accurate reproduction. It's not really something that feels super realistic in terms of how it reproduces its mids. The mids are also the softest, the least strongest, the least present part of the sound. So yeah, if you're someone who really likes emphasized vocals and really likes focusing on the instrumentals, this might not be for you. Although that's not to say that the mids are poorly tuned on these earphones. They're still pretty decent, they're still pretty enjoyable. It's just in certain instruments, especially to me, snares and hi-hat, they do feel a bit odd. Like your snares and hi-hats don't sound like snares and hi-hats when you listen to them on these compared to like other headphones and other earphones. However, the issues here aren't so massive that, you know, for 18 Singapore dollars, oh, you have to look away and you have to turn away. They still sound pretty decent. Moving on to the treble, and this is a very well executed part of its sound tuning. It's present, it's well extended, it's very airy sounding, and it's definitely a strong suit of its sound. It's very forward sounding, and in most genres of music does not fatigue me or Alex. However, I did find that if you listen to hard rock with a lot of snares, a lot of drums, it does get a bit fatiguing because the treble on these earphones are tuned to be very present and very sparkly and very strong. And if you're listening to genres of music with a lot of treble, it does get a bit jarring at times, but obviously it depends on your treble tolerance. In terms of soundstage, the earphones, the ZXTech is excellent. It's very wide, it's very expensive, it creates a very immersive sound, especially in live recordings. So it does feel like, you know, you're actually in the recording, it feels really nice. And when you test it with like the 1994 recording of Hotel California, it does feel like you're in there, you're in the midst of it all, which is a very nice experience to have, especially when you're listening to music and you want to get immersed in it. And if you're listening to well-mastered tracks, maybe with many details and intricacies in all corners of the soundstage, it really does feel a little bit more magical on these than other cheap earphones that I've tried in the past, because the soundstage is extremely well done. And because the soundstage is pretty good, and because the soundstage is very nice, I actually found that it was a very good pair of earphones to play Valorant with, because footsteps and positional audio were clear and distinct, and I definitely could notice where people and enemies were coming from. I could hear for footsteps, I could listen for, you know, information and stuff with these earphones, no problem. And there was no problems in distinguishing where exactly the sound was coming from, whether it was top right, back right, on the right, below me, things like that. It was all noticeable with these earphones. So if you are planning to use this with your PC and game a little with it, it's a perfectly good option, especially with that boomy bass helping your gunfire feel really explosive. Nice. And the detail of these earphones are also extremely respectable, and you can feel and hear many of the intricacies of the music that you're listening to without too much straining. It's definitely noticeable, and it brings up all the detail, and the reproduction is pretty solid. Of course, it's not anything to write home about. It's not $1 million in terms of sound, but the detail is definitely respectable for a headphone in its price range and its caliber and its class. Should you buy the ZXTech? Well, for 18 Singapore dollars, it's definitely a great pair of earphones to check out. I mean, it's so cheap, and for someone on a really tight budget, it's definitely a good option. If you're planning to get a pair of earphones to use your PC for gaming, these are actually pretty decent, because positional audio in Valorant is really nice with these, which was something that was quite surprising to me. I actually managed to win a game with it, which is more than I usually do one game. In terms of music listening experience, it's also really quite nice. The bass is strong and enjoyable, especially if you like raving to hip hop, and I love the soundstage being so immersive and so expansive. It feels that you can get soaked in your music. Sure, the mids tuning is a bit awkward, but after you listen to it for like a couple of hours, you definitely get used to it, and you know, this weird timbre in certain instruments just fades away to just how it tends to sound on these earphones, and you get used to all of the weirdness of its sound, so that's fine. So I definitely would say for $18, if you're looking for an immersive type of sound, it's definitely a good idea to check out the ZXTech, or at least have it on your watch list when you're shopping for your next pair of cheap Chi-Fi earphones. And with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, as James May says over on Drive Tribe. Oh, that rhymes. Oh, that rhymes. And yeah, follow me on Instagram, join my Discord. I'm going to be doing a 10,000 subscriber giveaway, so you make sure you join my social media platforms before I hit 10k subs, because then you have a bigger chance of winning the big prizes that are coming in. It's going to be like 3 mechanical keyboards or 2 gaming mice and a bunch of keycaps and stuff. It's going to be insane. It's going to be a really fun giveaway. So make sure you stay tuned and subscribe for that. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Adios. 再见.